and we're talking about boxing. I'll tell you what, if we're going to get the view of someone that knows, we're going to get the view of our next guest. A Matchroom boxing promoter joins us now. Good evening, Eddie Hearn. How are you, Eddie?
I'm good, lads. How you doing?
What was your nickname at school, Eddie?
Pies.
Pies?
Fatty, you know, all that kind of stuff.
I was only asking. I mean, it'd be rude to me.
I was on the wrong side of skinny.
Oh, okay, but now, I mean, you've used that to your advantage now. I won't go that far, Eddie, but I'm just... How are you? How, you good? Are you all right? Good.
I'm very good, yeah.
Hey, listen, I don't know if you heard our discussion just before the break. Did you hear it?
I didn't.
Okay, we're talking about Amir Khan. I'm getting quite annoyed with people saying the fight was the punch was a lucky punch. I said in that fight there's no such thing. The Garcia, when he threw it, you know, it was his intention to make contact with Khan's face, and it did. How can it be lucky? What's your view on the fight? But firstly, on that punch, lucky or not?
No, not really. I mean, I just watched the fight back actually about an hour ago. You know, Amir Khan was strange in his tactics in that fight. He seemed to want to stand there and trade. And many times when he was trading, he left his chin up in the air. And if you're going to do that, you're going to get caught. He's got blistering speed, Amir Khan, you know. And people say he should just box at long range and move. But you can't do that for 12 rounds. And when you come up against, you know, world-level fighters, at times, you're going to have to stand there and trade. And you can't do it with your chin in the air. And you can't do it when you've got a susceptible chin, which, you know, unfortunately he has.
Yeah, I'm watching it as we speak, actually, Eddie, and I think listen, I don't want to argue about the terminology. Andy and I just had a 15-minute chat about lucky punch and lucky this, but I think there is such a thing as a lucky punch, and I'm not so sure that he would have meant to knock him down off his feet. He swung at him, but Amir Khan has come in, and he's left his right arm so low down. Has he not learnt from what happened with Prescott? That's what he's got to do, because clearly he can't take a punch on the chin. He's got to improve his defence and be more cautious.
Yeah, like I said, it was a bit of an uncharacteristic performance in that respect. If you watched some of the footage on Sky of inside the ropes and footage from his sparring sessions, he was doing the same there. I was actually speaking to Kell Brook about it earlier. He was having full-on wars in his sparring sessions, again with his chin up in the air. And I don't know. I mean, you know, he talked a little bit today about maybe he needs more of a hands-on trainer because Freddie Roach is off with Manny Pacquiao and so forth, but that was an uncharacteristic Amir Khan in there who went in there and maybe he was just overconfident, you know, told us fights with Mayweather to come and so forth and took his foot off the gas or his eye off the ball. I didn't think he would because I thought he did that against Peterson as well. But he obviously underestimated Garcia. You know, Garcia's not a massive puncher. You know, he's just done three distance fights with Morales and Nate Campbell and Kendall Holt. So he's not a massive puncher. He can dig, but again, if you leave your chin open, you know, at that level, you're going to get hurt.
I've got to get your views, actually, Eddie, as well. We did the show on Sunday morning, the breakfast show, obviously straight after the Khan fight, and we're speaking to a journo from the Times, and he told us that when Khan went back to his corner after the third, after that brutal sort of last 30 seconds of the fight, Freddie Roach, his trainer, said to him, I want to stop the fight, I want to pull you out. And Khan changed his mind, which I've got a real problem with. From your point of view, a promoter, if you heard that one of your trainers has said to one of your boxers, I want to pull you out, and it allowed his mind to be changed by a boxer who's caught up in the moment, what would your view be on that?
Well, sometimes he might be testing the water. You know, he wants a reaction from the fighter to know where he's there, if he's compos mentis, and, you know, if he's okay. The problem I've got with the knockdown in the third is it was the same kind of reaction he got when he, you know, got knocked down against Prescott. The legs just completely went, and he had no balance, no understanding of where he was. When he went back to the corner and he sat down, you could see the concern on Freddie Roach's, you know, face. And then the doctor came over and asked if he was okay. Listen, he's a brave kid because he said he was. He knew he wasn't. He didn't know where he was. And then he went back out there and started trading leather in the fourth round, trying to dig himself out of trouble. I've got to take my hat off to him because he's a brave fighter. But unfortunately, the damage had already been done. He took some big shots in that fourth round without going down, and it was only the one that hit him on the top of the head, which is sometimes the most dangerous area to get a shot, that took his legs away again. But he actually recovered quite well. But when you see a fighter's legs go like that, generally they've lost the fight.
He didn't look too dissimilar, actually, to the fight against Prescott, the way that his legs just buckled beneath him. But I don't know whether you've read, you probably have, Carl Frochter's comments. He came on the show yesterday saying that if that had happened to him, he would retire. What do you think?
Well, I've had Carl on the phone all morning to me because he was really disappointed with, you know, the reaction of some of the comments. the BBC website, I was on the phone to them all morning, they've changed the story now, took it totally out of context. He said if that was him,
yes,
as a three-time world champion, at 35 years old, and he lost like that, he would retire. And he would. You know, and then he went on to say, but he's only young, he's a good fighter, blah, blah, blah. He's 25, he can't retire. You know,
why, Eddie, why can't he retire? Because of his age? I don't get that. I mean, if he's taken a couple of bits, is his health not more important than his age?
Yeah, it is, but listen, he's a top-level fighter. What he's learnt is he may never go on to be a top elite-level fighter. He may do, he may not, only time will tell. But what he's shown in the past is he is vulnerable in the chin department, and when you are vulnerable in that area, it's very unlikely that you can go on and mix at top level. If you look at all the people he's fought in the past, I know that people say Madonna is a huge puncher. You know, I'm not so sure, but he's never been in with elite level fighters. You know, Judah, susceptible. Even Lamont Peterson wasn't particularly rated that highly. You know, Kotelnik, they're not elite level fighters. Even Garcia. You know, so Amir Khan, I think, is a world level fighter, but I'm not sure he's going to go on to be that elite level fighter that he talks about. There's no disgrace in that. You know, you can still have a career as a world champion, and he may well come back and win a world title. I hope he does. You know, because he's a nice kid and he trains so hard. You only got to watch the programs, and he gives his all to the sport. But he does have this weakness, and now what's going to happen is every man that shares a ring with him is going to know he's got that weakness, because before he could brush it off as, you know, a freak knockdown, and now it's shown its colours again. So anyone who steps in the ring with him, who can bang a little bit, is going to fancy their chances.
Okay, let's move on to the other fight, Eddie, that took all our attention over the weekend. David Haye beat Chisora, and he beat him in the end quite convincingly. He looked like he was in control of the fight. How did you see it?
Yeah, it was a good fight, actually. I mean, a lot of controversy leading up to the fight. I wasn't the biggest supporter of it, and, you know, I'm still not. I think it happened for a lot of the wrong reasons, but it captured the public's imagination. And, you know, as I said before the fight, David Haye should have been leaps and bounds beyond Derek Chisora, and he was. And still, after all that time out, he showed spurts of class. The knockout was superb. And, you know, who knows what he's going to go on and do from here. He's not the kind of guy who is motivated by world titles and a legacy and stuff like that. He's motivated by a pound note, and I don't necessarily blame him for that. You know, he knows what he wants. I don't think he's sitting there dreaming of winning his world title back. I think he's probably sitting there dreaming about how much money he can make against Vitaly Klitschko. So that's a possibility. I know Klitschko's got a fight, I think September the 8th against Manuel Char. So he's talking about possibly retiring after that and going into politics. But I think it will take a fight like that to draw David Haye back to the ring. But, you know, again...
Is he a fighter, Eddie, you'd like to look after?
Yeah, you know, he's a great self-publicist, David Haye. He promotes himself very well. He promotes the fights very well. It's sometimes difficult dealing with people who perhaps think they know more than they actually do, and that's no disrespect to David. But, you know, like I say, he's been around the game, and he'll have his own opinions of how to do things. Sometimes it's easier to take someone through the ranks and really look after them and take all the stress of the management and promotion side away from them. I think David likes to be involved in all that. He likes to make decisions based around his marketing and his promotion, his PR. And sometimes that's a little bit difficult for a promoter to deal with, because sometimes you might not think they're right, but you may have to suffer it. And we're not really ones who like to suffer when we think we're making the right decision.
Eddie, you're a star. Thank you so much for coming on. It's quite late, actually, 10:30. Were you up? Were you staying up? Have you got a late night ahead of you? What are you doing?
Well, it was a rock and roll night for me. I watched Behind the Ropes on Khan and Garcia. Then I watched the fight. And then I watched a bit of Kell Brook against Carson Jones. So, you know, just a typical crazy night for me.
That's what you do. I reckon that's all a lie, all right? You've just been sat in front of Sky Plus watching a bit of Jeremy
Eating
Kyle.
pies.
Yeah, pies, Kyle. Yeah, that's what you've been doing, Eddie.
Haribos, actually.
Oh, I can fancy them now. Eddie, listen, thank you so much for coming. Always a pleasure chatting, Jerry. I appreciate that.
Mate, take care.
Thanks, mate. There you go, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing Promoter. Interesting.